As the Muggles say, truth will out.
Never mind, Lady Narborough. I smoke a great deal too much. I am going to limit myself for the future. Pray don't, Lady Ruxton, said Lord Henry. Moderation is a fatal thing. Enough is as bad as a meal. More than enough is as good as a feast. Lady Ruxton.
It's easy to be wise after the event.
If you don't mind my saying so, your ladyship, but I tried to.
Enough is as good as a feast. Come along, please.
Been asked by colleagues of other people. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. Looking back, do you regret that the structure of the organisation is such that you didn't have a more direct role in this?
And obviously Scotland as well. So your point is very, very valid in terms of, you know, if we are comparing ourselves with other areas in Europe, what could we have done differently? Question mark. But then I'm also looking at wider than Europe and looking at some other countries that probably, hindsight is wonderful, but probably responded quicker and faster than other countries in Europe and elsewhere did. So I think a learning for us in terms of, and that's why we keep pushing, where's our forward plan?
As it turned out, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You would have been better off not putting it on a bit later, or they can make that decision later, and sometimes the decision may be not to put it on.
Gathered from Mr. Salmond. You had...
Yes, correct.
Okay. Again, I appreciate hindsight's a wonderful thing, but would you now consider that a conflict of interest?
I started to realise about a quarter of the way through Year 12 that these science-based subjects were not for me. I wasn't enjoying it. Nowadays, you'd probably have teacher support where they went, that kid's actually not thriving in this atmosphere, and they'd try and help it. But in those days, it was like, you know, the nuns were like, do that assignment. I'm like, I don't understand that assignment. So I guess I probably just floundered a little bit. In hindsight is a wonderful thing, and you're not supposed to have it at 17 or 18, but in hindsight, I should have done art and drama, and I love.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing in the world. Young people didn't turn out to vote in great numbers, but those that did wanted to remain.
Well, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing.
So let's stop wasting time.
Maybe stop asking so many questions, Scott. Stop overthinking it.
You could have seen your daughter again. You could have gone home. You should have looked the other way.
You know, everyone's pissed with the status quo.
As Americans are fed up with the status quo.
Maintaining the status quo.
So, question the status quo.
Report. Everything's status quo, sir.
He's challenging the status quo.
Maintenance of the status quo.
Consider things status quo.
Yeah.
Maybe we just keep it status quo.
Violently upsets the status quo.
Status quo has changed, son.
Allow the status quo to grow.
Status quo are finally over.
And impose your will on the status.
Of my femininity to the status quo.
Because this living life status quo is killed.
It was the status quo between the hill people and the village.
At least keep the status quo.
A disturber of the status quo.
We need to maintain the status quo.
The question is, what sort of jaded game is he up to this time?
Incursions. You should have let me out when you had the chance.
You couldn't have known.
In and out as fast as you can. The longer you're in there, the more your mind will come undone.
You said minor, Willie. I mean, plus, that's just a rite of passage in the theater, you know. My old pal, as you may surmise, I will have my usual